You mentioned the loneliness aspect of things. If you don't mind sharing, how did that affect you, and how were you able to sort of make those adjustments while you were staying there?
So I had this group of friends, and then they were just doing their masters in Colorado, and then everybody started graduating. So I was like kind of losing my whole group of friends. I used to work remote in Colorado as well. Like speaking about the loneliness, so when you are sitting in front of a laptop surrounded by those four walls for the whole 24 hours, I think that's just too depressing by itself. People talk about Switzerland, so and how beautiful it is when you see it in pictures and all that. But just imagine you're the only person living in Switzerland, how does it feel? So, you are staying in the paradise of the earth, but then, it's just like you're the only person existing there.
Hey, bro, how's it going?
Hey, hi, Prateek. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking, and thank you for being here. By the way, before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, any likes and dislikes in personal life, future aspirations, hobbies, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing about yourself on the internet.
Sure. And firstly, thank you so much, Prateek, for inviting me on this podcast show. I'm really excited
Absolutely.
to be a part of this. And yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Sai Mahesh Ergila, and in short, I'll just go by Sai. And Pratik, for you, you're used to call me as Mahesh, so yeah, you can call me whatever, Sai or Mahesh, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, so and by profession, I'm a Scrum Master Advisor. So basically, this is a manager role, and I work for FedEx. Uh, and yeah, I have a IT background, and then I did not like coding in my earlier days of IT corporate job, and then I moved to a more management position because I felt that I'm good at talking with people and managing stuff. So that's how I landed in this position. And speaking about my hobbies, so I really like traveling, and I do a lot of photography, like the nature photography. And during the COVID time, I really explored myself, and I do a lot of cooking. So that's about my hobbies. And uh, yeah, in my free time, I usually listen to music or just go out for a long walk. Uh, that kind of helps relax uh, myself. And yeah, so that's about me.
Awesome. What's your go-to meal to cook if you want something that's quick and easy for you to eat for dinner?
Okay, so that would be paneer butter masala, and that is something that, so I come from a Hindu family, and then we're a little religious, and then there are certain days I'm supposed to eat non-veg, and sometimes I cannot eat non-veg. So it's like paneer butter masala is my go-to meal because irrespective of whatever days, I always have that paneer stock sitting in my fridge, and then it just takes 20 minutes for me to prepare the whole delicious food, and then serve it with uh, hot rice. So yeah, so that's one of my favorite foods. If you ever visit me, that is the best. That is the first thing I'm going to serve you. So
Awesome, awesome,
yeah.
awesome. What did you learn from developing the habit of cooking during COVID?
Okay, so my motivation came from uh, so basically during COVID time, most of the restaurants were uh, closed, and then few of them which were open, you basically had the option of only doing a to-go order, and then the real flavor of the food comes when you're eating it hot, and then within that 5-10 minutes of coming out of the burner, sitting on your plate. So that's when you really feel that spice and the real flavor, the juicy part of that food. But during the COVID time, I felt that even if I'm spending like $10-15 going out and buying food for myself, I was not satisfied with that spent and also the quality that I'm getting. So that's when I explored my cooking skills. I used to watch this quick 3-minute videos on YouTube or on TikTok, and then I used to like put them into practice. So that kind of helped me to fulfill all my cravings. So because during my masters, like as soon as I came to the US, 2 months, 2 months, US was like US, and people were all living the normal life, and then I was like enjoying here. And the 2 months after me coming in 2020, there was a COVID, and then everything was locked down. So I literally had that uh, Indian food cravings, and then there were like limited options to go out. So that's when I started cooking, and then every time I cook something new, I feel that I've become creative, and then I just take the pride. And next time I keep on cooking the same item until I get uh, you know really good version of it. So yeah, I won't stop until I reach to the perfection of that particular food.
Gotcha. If you had to rate yourself, how much would you rate yourself? Your cooking skills at out of 10.
um I would rate myself 8.5.
Oh, nice. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask why 8.5?
So COVID came in 2020, and then uh, in this 4 years, I think I have learned a lot, like what spices to put in, like what kind of spices would go in that particular food, and how much quantity you have to put, and then uh, how to garnish your food well, because just preparing is not enough. You also have to look at the total aesthetics of how the food is looking, and yeah, for me, eating is important, and also the looks of the food, how it's being presented. So I think I'm balancing both of them, and yeah, and also the best part is that I like to share my food with others, because if I just eat that food by myself, I just feel that uh, I am okay, like I am good, or I just get mixed feelings. But when I serve it to somebody, like a second person, and then I hear his opinion, he'll be very honest, however it was. And then if it's good, okay, I just rate myself, hey, I'm good. And then if he says that, hey, it still needs improvement, and that kind of gives me a good feedback to improvise myself in my future cooking. So I feel that that feedback aspect is always important, and I think feedback over the time, serving it to many people, that has given me a really, it really brought a lot of difference in my style of cooking, and then that's why I'm happy to say that I can rate myself 8.5. Because of the feedback that I received from people. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the fact that you moved here 2 months prior to COVID hitting the world, essentially. What were your initial feelings like when you sort of began experiencing the pandemic and like moving so close or experiencing that so close to moving to the US?
Okay. Uh, while being in India, uh, you know, when we watch a lot of these Hollywood movies, which are some Bollywood movies, which were shot in US. So I literally imagined, the life like in those movies, and then I thought, one day when I go for my master's, when I actually be in the US land, I think I'll also get to see that busy life, that busy, the subways running around and all that. So yeah, like I had like a different perspective how I thought I will be starting my life in the US. So when I came here in the beginning, in the first 2 months, in the first 2 months, I noticed that my imagination was a lot different. Uh, you know, so city here is like busy, but then you don't see like people around. Like all you see is trees, houses, cars. You'll see people only at the parking lot or inside the store. And on the pedestrian walks, you don't see anybody. So that's the biggest culture shock for me, because I'm used to seeing people all around me in my whole life, and then after coming here, in the beginning it was very different. So yeah, and then during those 2 months, I've also went through a lot of culture shocks. I've learned some really good things here, and I've worked on my socializing skills, and then without any hesitation, and uh, yeah, and then. I've made a lot of local friends, like the American friends, because I felt that I would be really uh, you know so I'm in a new country now. I really want to explore the culture here, because one culture I know where I come from, but exploring the culture in the new country that you are in, that is very essential for your day to day life. And when I made those connections with the local people here, the native people here, uh, and I learned a lot from them. So now coming back to the actual question, that how I imagine. So uh, you know I what I saw in movies, I literally thought my life would be like that. And in the beginning, I used to enjoy going to the college, attending my classes, and then seeing people from diverse backgrounds all around, the classroom, and connecting with them, learning about their country, their background. So it was fun. And then after 2 months, so I went to the school like in person in January and February, but in March we suddenly received an email that there is a lockdown, so all the classes from now on are going to be virtual, and please have make sure that your laptop meets this configuration, and then going on you'll attend all the classes from home. So that was a big shock for me. And because as I said, I was really enjoying my in-person classes, and now it was very difficult to imagine that now you have to do all your classes online, because you come to the US to gain a different exposure, but then again, virtual kind of setup. It's similar to learning a course on a Udemy sitting back in India or in my own city. So that has changed like everything, uh, and something that I was like never prepared for. And then I was waiting like, okay, in 1 2 months everything should be back to normal, and I think I'll be again back to college, meeting new people again. But then that never happened in that one semester. That one semester rolled on to 2 semesters, and then went to 3 semesters, and then 4 semesters. Like in the fourth semester in 2021, at the end, like before I was like graduating, they made in-person classes, and then they gave me like a hybrid option. But then the classes that I enrolled, they were all virtual again. So uh, the whole master's experience was just virtual. So uh, you know and for me, I think that's a really big difference for me, because that exposure content and making that connection with the people here, that was kind of missing. Because in virtual, you get some tasks, you get some assignments, and all job you have to do is like just get it done. That's all. So you're not really interacting with people and learn about them. So and also with the professors, of course. So that kind of communication was less. Yeah. So yeah, my life has been like my perspective, my vision of studying in India versus studying in US. Uh, you know, uh, it's been very different.
Right, right, right. Because yeah, especially like the initial point of culture shock that you mentioned of what you saw in movies versus what you've experienced here. I think that's a misconception that a lot of us have, especially as international students, because we assume that the entirety of the US is the way we see it in movies. But then after you move here, you realize that those are only the bigger cities. But once you get into like middle America, it's quite different. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but that's just the way things are. And you mentioned like the aspect of missing out on like physical connections and meeting people and so on. Um, Other than the cooking aspect of things, what do you think has changed for you from the time that the pandemic hit?
Uh, okay, so I think uh, okay, I think apart from cooking, okay, I think I have become more of an outdoor person. Like before pandemic, I used to go to theaters. I used to go to clubs. I used to go to, you know, like the social gatherings, like house parties, so everything is like basically a closed setup. And during lockdown, all these post risk, okay, because COVID is contagious. And then that was the time that, I was like in my apartment the whole day, the whole week, and the whole month. And uh, and these all these things that I just mentioned about, everything was at zero that time. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to continue for one more month sitting at home just listening to my classes and doing nothing, then I'm definitely going to impact my mental health and also my physical health. And that's when I uh, got into hiking, I got into running, I got into uh, more into kayaking and stuff. So I explored the outdoorsy activities that earlier I used to feel like lazy about. So I think I have become more active exploring outdoors and exploring new places. So while I was in Oklahoma, so from the third or fourth month onwards, like sitting at home. So Lake Hefner used to buy my go-to spot, and then Lake Arcadia. So I used to go there for kayaking and for running, and then and that was a fantastic experience. And also I talked about my another hobby, that is photography. And then I think when you are going into the nature, you see a beautiful bird or just deer, you know you have seen a lot of deers, you have seen a lot of birds, but then you click one picture and you think that, hey, I should have taken it from this angle, and then you'll be like, okay, let me take in portrait mode. And the more pictures you take, like every next picture, you think that you'll give your best shot. And this way I did the same. So I think I have improved my photography skills in the nature. So yeah, so these are the other two things that I feel that I have worked on, like uh, a good change I have seen myself during the COVID time. So that is keeping myself physically and mentally active, and my photography skills.
Right. And you mentioned initially that you liked traveling. Was that something that
Yeah.
changed after COVID as well? Because like you had to sort of fuel your sense of seeking the outdoors and so on, or was traveling always something you were quite interested in doing?
Okay. So regarding traveling, okay, I. Yeah, I was interested. Okay, so this is. I just want to give a little background as you have mentioned
Absolutely.
traveling. Okay, so in India, okay, my dad is an Indian Army officer. Basically, he's retired right now, but I come from an army background. And then being in being in that background, you basically have to keep on moving cities. Like every 3 years, your dad get posted into a different city. So we moved a lot. And then all the traveling that I did was just with the family. And the only kind of places that I went was the religious places, like Tirupati, like Shirdi, because my mom was a little religious, and that's those were the places that we used to regularly go. And then other things that we would do in a trip, it would just go and meet some family friends in a new city, or uh, or just see one or two touristic spots. So I didn't really experience that proper traveling while I was in India. I was just going with whatever my parents uh, thought that they want to do. So that was a travel part. And then when I become 18 and above, and then I was in college. So during that time, uh, all my friends used to go to traveling to different cities by themselves or with their groups. But during that time, I never really went on a trip, because I was like, okay, right now my father is already paying for my tuition fee. He's paying for everything that I need. So I don't really want to take more money from him for traveling. And I just made a goal for myself that one day I will travel more than these people. I will travel to more places than these people, and I'll gain more experiences, and I'll make more memories than these people. I just made that goal for myself. And then you know and then today I am actually doing that. So earlier I used to ask for my friends about their experiences, and now the things have reversed. Now they're asking me for my experiences. So I think I've made a good progress there. And then trust me, so there were some times when my whole friend group would go for a an excursion. They would just go to a different city, like Goa, the popular destination in India, or they would just go to Wayanad in Karnataka, all these cool places. But then I wanted to go as well, but then I was like, yeah, just like I told earlier, I was like, I just fixed up my mind that one day I will just explore all these places, but with my own money. Because I studied in one of the most expensive engineering colleges in Hyderabad, uh, and that's CBIT. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to make my father pay more for my trips. Okay, so that's about India. After coming to the US, so during the COVID time, as I've mentioned, that my out exploring outdoors, that interest started with hanging around the Hefner Lake, hanging around the Lake Arcadia. And that's when I've seen that I think I should probably go to a nearby new state, just enough to be able to drive. And then let's see how the US, the other part of the US is. And then me and my roommates, we were like, we were all in Oklahoma for the past 6 7 months in the beginning. And then we all randomly made a plan to Colorado. And then my first trip in the US with my own money was to Colorado. And Colorado, it's the most beautiful place on earth. And after seeing those mountains and all those beautiful sceneries over there, that has interest, that has got a separate interest for me, that I think I should explore more places in US, and I think I might just see many cool places. And then I started going on trips. I started saving little by little, and I just started exploring the nearby states. And then and that's how my interest for traveling has started. uh, and Yeah, just a fun fact, I have completed, like, I have seen 33 states in the US in the past 3 years. So yeah, so that's a small fun fact about me.
That's cool. That was actually going to be my next question to ask you. How many states have you hit? So 33 out of 50. That's awesome. Um, if you had to pick, not in terms of closest or expense or anything, but if you could pick the next state to go to um, without any limitations, which state would that be and why?
Okay, so without any limitation, okay, I'll just say two. Okay, you have said one state, but I would say, okay, let me give you answer in two different ways actually. So that state which I've already been and I again want to go there, and the state that I have not gone to but I want to go there. So okay, so
That's
uh,
fine. Yeah, go ahead.
the state I want to revisit is New Mexico. And because I have already been there, and then I have just felt that New Mexico is kind of like underrated state. And like many people, they see like Colorado, Miami, New Mexico, like all like Colorado, Miami, Orlando, New York, but nobody really talks about New Mexico. And then I really like the culture there, the architecture there, the food there. And so it has got like really beautiful hidden gems over there. So I think I would revisit that state again if I get a chance. And coming to a new state that I want to explore, that would be Alaska. So I have the trip planned for later this year because I always have seen this aurora borealis in videos and in pictures, and it has always been my dream to see those northern lights, in person. So, and this year, I think something is happening in the geography, and then this year they are saying that you will be seeing this northern lights at a very high intensity and also during a long time frame at the second half of this year. So I do have that plan, and I'm like really excited because for me, sitting in India, I always thought Alaska is like a uh, frozen continent or a frozen state, and there's nothing. But after coming here, I've seen more of Alaska pictures, and then the beautiful mountains, and the snow, uh, and especially the northern lights is something that I'm more interested in seeing. So I'm really excited for that trip. I could have done this trip in the past, but then anytime I tell people, hey dude, so let's go to Alaska, everybody will be like, why do you want to go so that far? There's nothing. It's always cold. I'm like, I know it's cold, but then the cold places have its own beauty to experience. So this time I was able to convince my friends, and then we are a group of four people who always travel together. And then, yeah, we all are packing our bags and just in the planning phase for the Alaska trip.
That's super cool. That's super cool. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the Northern Lights are, I'll just pop up a picture over here. But essentially, it's like some formation in the sky of like the light, right? Or is it like
Yes.
some right? And
Yeah.
I've heard that it's quite prominent even in parts of Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I
Um,
think it's Finland. It's very popular.
right. So that's super cool, man. I mean, I'm sure that will be an exciting trip for you guys. Uh, yeah, because I feel like there's the beauty in nature is just something else to admire. Um, I mean, I'm sure like going to cities and like seeing the different architecture and like the things that cities have to offer is its own fun. But I think nature, I mean, personally too, like I prefer that much more than like a big city and like walking past a concrete jungle. Like, don't get me wrong, it has its fun, but I prefer the nature
Absolutely.
myself as well. Um,
How about you, Pratik? So, if I were to ask you the same question, like,
yeah.
which is a state in US that you want to revisit, and which is a state that you want to visit for the first time? What's in your
Hmm.
wish list?
Interesting. To revisit, I think I will never not want to revisit Colorado. Uh, I would love to revisit Colorado again. I mean, I went earlier this year for a conference. It was more specific to Denver, but I'd like to go to some of the more scenic parts, like on the western side and so on, and discover some of the other parts of Colorado that I've not been to. In terms of states that I've never visited that I want to go to, it's funny you ask that because I've never really thought about it myself. Um, but if I had to pick, um, well, there's this city in Idaho called Coeur d'Alene. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like
Hmm.
close to Spokane, Washington, I think, on the west coast. Um, I've always thought about wanting to go there in the past. Um, so yeah, I'd probably want to go there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. And when you mentioned about Colorado, I think you have stayed in Colorado, right? So
yeah,
you
yeah.
used to
I
work in
worked there for
Colorado.
about 10 months. Yeah, I worked.
10
I
months.
worked for a clinic for about 10 months.
Okay.
On like the western side of Colorado, so like 2 hours west of Denver. So
Okay.
yeah, that place is a very beautiful place. The only thing though is like living alone kind of can be a little
Yeah.
boring in that part of the state. Um, but if you're just going to as a tourist, like see the scenic parts and all, that's great. But yeah, so I have lived in Colorado, and you were also in Colorado for a little while for work, right?
Yes, and now, yeah, I stayed there for 1 year, and the reason for me moving out of Colorado is something along the same lines that you have just mentioned. So, yeah, so I was in okay. So earlier I told you, right? It's quite interesting. I just want to share this. Okay,
Absolutely, go
so
for it.
in the beginning, I have mentioned that my first trip to US was Colorado, and then I was like very impressed with the beauty that state has offered. And when I used to see these big mountains and my Airbnb, it really had this a huge Rocky Mountains view. And I always thought that one day I'll definitely come here and I live here. So and then it's just a miracle or something that pulled me towards Colorado. That after graduating, the first job that I got was in Colorado, and interestingly, it's in my favorite city of the whole Colorado, and that is Colorado Springs. And if you have been to Colorado Springs, that's the most magical place. Like the beautiful Pikes Peak and then the hilly roads. It's beautiful. And then I stayed in Colorado Springs, and then after 6 months, I moved out of Colorado Springs because the main reason is that it was very difficult to make connections, like meet people there. People are friendly, but then I felt that some sort of loneliness in Colorado. It's beautiful when you're going out, but then you don't go out all the time. So most of the time you are by yourself. So you really need a good group of people to hang out and do all that stuff. And in Colorado, I did meet few people, but then everybody just came there and they left Colorado because many in Colorado have seen that many people come there for a short term, just for an experience. Some people come for experience for skiing. Some people come stay longer for doing the 14ers, the climbing the mountain summits. So people come there for temporary basis. So the friends that I made, that everybody started leaving, and then after 6 months, I moved to Denver, stayed there for another 7 months, and in Denver also I felt the same kind of vibe. Like I used to enjoy. I used to have like a really cool group of friends who were doing masters at University of Colorado, and then slowly everybody started graduating, and then I was just by myself. And then uh, again, I work in a remote setup, and then meeting new people, the chances were less, and then everybody would be there just for a very short time. And that's when I'm like, okay, Colorado is a place good to see, good to visit, but maybe it's not for me. Uh, you know, staying, for staying purpose. And then I moved to the East Coast, and now in North Carolina.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, maybe Denver is like a place where you wouldn't feel that lonely. But then as soon as I was thinking that, you said that even you got a similar vibe from Denver. So it's quite interesting because Denver is quite busy and like, there's a lot of things happening in Denver. But um, yeah, I can see that. And I can relate to the point that you made about how people are usually coming there to visit. Because I lived in this town called Avon, which is very close to Vale, and that is a ski resort town essentially. So it's packed during the winters because people are traveling in um, to basically ski or snowboard, go to Beaver Creek and all that kind of stuff. But after that, after those winter months are basically done, all those people are kind of gone. It's only the locals. And like the
Yeah,
population of those places is like in the 30s and 40,000s. And yeah, half of which you probably will never meet. So yeah, I
true.
can very much relate to what you said
Yeah,
about the loneliness of it that you feel when you're staying in Colorado. So I kind of agree that it's much more, probably a better place to visit, not so much to stay. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And most of the time it's always cold there, so you barely come out of the house because it's super cold, and then it's icy, snowy. So that's again another factor, because if you go out to a park daily, you'll end up meeting new people. But then during this winters last for like 6 to 7 months in Colorado, and during that time you'll hardly see people coming out. And then even if they're out, they're covered top to bottom, they have headphones on so that it can protect them from cold. And then it's a little awkward to go and initiate a conversation with anybody in that situation, and then you are yourself freezing there. And then these are few of the factors that influenced me to move out of Colorado after 1 year.
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Because the colleagues I used to work with would actually tell me that up in the mountains, it would sometimes snow every month of the year. So there was no one there was no month where there wouldn't be any snow. Um, so yeah, it is quite cold, and if you're not a fan of the cold, then it's probably not the best place. But I kind of like the cold. I mean, I liked the cold. If I had to pick between one or the other, I would like to see the sun more often. But the cold is not bad. Yeah, the cold is not bad. You mentioned your hobby of photography as well, and I was curious to know what was it that sort of um, ignited that curiosity of wanting to explore and like experience photography.
Okay, so uh, okay, the passion uh, to get the next click with a full perfection. I think that has motivated me to pursue my hobby in photography. So, like a small example I have given earlier with the bird, now I would just give for the mountains. So, when you are visiting a mountain and then you take a picture, you know, uh, the whole mountain, and you get a one kind of perspective. And then when you would just take your camera angle a little up, you just focus on the peak and the small sun or the moon next to it, or maybe a piece of cloud around the peak. I think that will give a different perspective. So I think uh, every second click that I clicked on my camera or my phone, I feel that I become more creative, and I think I'm adding more perception to it and a more flavor to the picture and the scenery in general. And then when I post it online, and then people give a compliment about that, and people wanting to visit that place, and curious to learn more about that place, then I really feel that okay, so people are liking it, and some people are like really finding it impressive, and people are showing a lot of interest. Let me do something in the field of photography that would benefit them as well. And that's why if we both are connected on Instagram, And then you might, if you're seeing my story, I always put a lot of pictures in my stories or highlights whenever I travel, because some people who want to travel, they don't know what is a good place to go and how to see it. When they I see that people connect themselves through my pictures that I post, and it's doing good for them also, right? So that kind of motivated me to put some more creativity and more time into photography, and just become perfect at each next click.
Gotcha. It's sort of a way to explore your creative side um,
Absolutely.
by
Yeah.
clicking pictures. That's awesome. That's super cool. That's super cool. I have very two tangential questions
Yeah, yeah,
that
sure.
sort of go in different places. I'll ask the first one and then we'll get to the second one in a moment. You mentioned that you traveled to 33 different states. Um, which state had the best food and which one had the worst food?
Okay. uh I would say I would say about the good food, the worst food, I can't comment because I don't really explore a lot of local restaurants. When
I
I'm
see.
going
Okay.
on a trip, I usually, if my trip is for 3 days or 4 days, I just try to take like one meal to try the local dish, and mostly I would just I just survive on McDonald's, Taco Bells,
I see. Okay.
whatever comes in the budget. Because when I'm going on a trip, I really want to go uh, on a budget for memories rather than the focus on food,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a little sensitive to the food, and then I can't really like take that risk during my
Understood.
travels. So yeah, and speaking about the best food, I think the Puerto Rican food. So when I went to Puerto Rico, the first meal I tried was at a restaurant in San Juan, uh, which is the capital of Puerto Rico. And in that area, basically, you don't have any chain restaurants. Even if you want to, buy a $2 sandwich or a $2 taco, you don't really have those many options. So you only have that option to, kind of explore their local food. And then they were like a lot of family owned businesses, family owned restaurants which had the best food. And so when I went there, the interesting fact is that when I was reading their menu, I couldn't understand what does it mean and what it is and all that, because most of the names were in Spanish, or in their culture, however they call it. And then it was difficult for me to pronounce, and then I don't want to order something that I would just waste, or something I would just leave it aside. So any restaurant that I would just go, I would be like looking at I'll be like going around the tables. I'll be like looking at everybody's tables, and and the waiter comes and she attends me. She'll be like, "Okay, sir, what would you like?" I'm like, "Okay, what is that on the table? It looks very interesting." And then she'll be like, "Okay, so this is blah 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 blah." And like, "Okay, so can I get that a vegetarian version of it, or can I get a chicken version of it?" She'll be like, "Okay, absolutely, sir, we'll do that." So the you know the servers there were like so friendly. They were like so flexible. If some food was meant only for beef and pork, or some seafood, they're so flexible and they're so creative enough to make that customization for you with no extra charge, and they would just bring it to the table. And and the kind of passion, that happy face that they carry while attending you, I think I really the way I was treated there. And then the food, especially the way it was garnished, and the kind of local flavor I was getting, I was like really impressed. So anyone who would go to Puerto Rico in future, so this is my recommendation, that you guys should try the local food. You might have to spend a little extra, but then it's absolutely worth it. And that food, I don't think I found that in the US connected states anywhere. So yeah, that's my experience about the good food.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, I'm guessing it was more like Spanish influenced in some sense, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's why like I don't even remember even a single food item that I ate over there. So everything in the menu was different. I
Hmm.
can't even pronounce it. I can't even remember it. The only things I just felt familiarized was the Coke or the Pepsi or just the soda
I see.
products.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned about the fact that you sort of maintain a budget and make sure you hit those budgets when you're traveling and so on. So I'm curious to know, like, what are some of tips and tricks that you've used to sort of make your travel experiences the best that they can be?
Okay. Very good question, and this is something I love to talk about. With a lot of people who want to pursue their hobby in traveling, or they want to plan their upcoming trip. So, whenever you're planning any trip, the budget is the biggest thing that you should talk about. And you should always choose the right group who are comfortable with that budget range, and make sure that you are aligning, everybody's aligned to that budget range. And in my experience, most of the states that I have been in the US, they all have been through Drive, because I always go in a group of three or a group of four. Uh, Solo traveling, I rarely do. Like, only if I have friends in the other city, I would just travel solo. But then most of the time, I always travel in a group of three or four, because that uh, tries to keep the whole budget at the minimum. Because let's say you're renting out a car per day, $100, you just split it by 425 per person. You're renting out the motel for that night, 100 or 120, and it's you split it by four, it becomes like $25. So if you're doing a 3 day trip, most of my trips are like 3 or 4 days, mostly 3 days on an average. And then my budget is usually, most of the cities that out of 33 states that I have been in US, almost 22 states, I could say that I have completed in a budget of $300. So, uh, you know, so, so it depends upon the situation. For example, well, I was in Colorado before this, and I covered all the neighboring states nearby. So everything was like drivable, like 9 hours, 10 hours. And then, it doesn't really add too much onto your budget. So, and then I moved to East Coast now, and then again East Coast also a lot of states like nearby. So whenever I'm in any zone of the US, I try to complete all the states nearby, so that I don't have to go there back again. I don't have to fly, because if you're flying, then you have to spend a lot. But if you're going by drive with another 2 3 people, then I think it saves a lot, and also you really get to make a lot of memories. So budget is the first thing that I plan initially. Like, okay, I'm going to New York. This is going to be my budget, because it's a big city. But if I'm going to Utah, or maybe if I'm going to New Mexico, this is how the budget should look like. And all and the people that I'm really good at planning the itinerary, basically. So over the time, I've like become very expert in that itinerary, to keep the budget at the minimum, and also gain the maximum uh, experiences, and come back happy. So memories is something that is always important for me, and also keeping the trip at the budget. So I make the itinerary, I discuss with my friends, and I'm like, okay, this is the estimate. This is going to take $500 for the whole trip, and just be flexible, guys, to spend little, like 20% extra on the worst case. Mostly, we'll try to keep it with that $500 or less than that, but always keep that 20% just in case. And we always try to stick to that budget, 500 plus, that is like additional 20%. And if at some point we realize that, hey, now I think this during the trip, if we realize that, hey, this is going a little extra, then we try to make some compromises, you know in maybe eating food, or maybe grabbing drinks at a bar. These are kind of small things that you can compromise. And then maybe if you hire helicopter ride planned, or if you have like a water activity planned, these are like quite expensive. Like it'll easily take 150 $200 out of your pocket. And during the trip, if we have gained enough experience, and then if we have to make some small compromises on these adventure activities, we try to uh, evaluate that among ourselves, and then just take it out of a plan, get that flexibility, make that adjustment. And then we just when we come back, we just realize that we have been within that budget. So
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think, especially when you're traveling as a fresh graduate out of college, or as a college student, you have to maintain a budget, right? Because you don't have as much money to like
yeah,
just be spontaneous
yeah,
with the way that you spend. So
yeah.
no, that's quite good to know. And yeah, I guess the other important thing that you mentioned is the compromising aspect of it. Um, yeah, because I can see like traveling solo can be much more expensive versus if you travel in a group, it can be cheaper because you get to split the cost of things. So yeah, I mean, it's quite smart things. Was those things that you figured out as you traveled, or was that something that you researched and figured out would be the best ways to do?
Okay, so during my masters, as I mentioned, that during my masters itself, I have seen a lot of states. And during while you're doing your masters, you really have the tight budget that you want to stick to. And then if you go little over that, then you'll feel very bad after the trip ends. So and then that'll get you into bankruptcy, and then you have to apply for more credit cards for survival, or you have to do extra hours. So that is something that I've learned during my masters, that I have, if I'm going on a trip, I'm going there for an experience, and let me not just look at the luxury side of it. Let me just make memories, spend some time with my friends there, capture some good pictures, and come back. That's all, and just try to be within the budget. So that was my perspective. And now, like, uh, ever since I started working, I started exploring new places. And even today, even if I'm earning and I have a stable income, even today I still think a lot about the budget. Like, uh, I see a lot of videos, see a lot of TikToks, a lot of reels, you know, and whatever that state is known for, whatever that place is known for, we just try to focus on that important spots in the state, and then not go into something, that's not interesting. So, uh, so that's why I try to keep the things and the budget there. And then another thing is empathizing. So, so as I told, that I was traveling group in three or two, and then sometimes the situation of mine may not be, the financial situation of mine may not be the same for my other friends. So, you know, and I really respect that. And, just because I want to see those places, and just because one person in that group wants to see that places, we don't want to go over the budget. So we want to see the good spots, make some memories, and come back. So during that time, I think I do a really good job at it, is that empathizing. So I would just go one, hey dude, so okay guys, so next month we are going to New Mexico, and this is going to be the budget. I put that in the WhatsApp group, and then I would just individually call each person just to check, like, what is the situation right now? Like, are they okay to spend that budget? Or if they have any leave constraints because everybody is working, and things like this. I check with each person uh, in a one-on-one conversation, and then uh, I just summarize, you know, the whole plan, what we are going to do. So earlier, if I say the $500, but if somebody says that he's going through little financial problems there, he cannot spend more than $300, then in my summary conference call, I would just tell, hey guys, so how about let's do only this places, around $300, because I don't think that place is absolutely worth it. So let's just do it, in this. and this is absolutely doable. And if you want to do maybe a helicopter ride, or if you want to like do a camel ride, you can just do it, once we reach there, because this is an individual choice. As a group, 300 is a budget per person, let's stick to it. But if you want to do a little additional, you can do it. We are not going to stop it. So that kind of open conversation, and that mature conversation I have with everybody before starting for a trip. And I think that is like very important, because sometimes, when you are asking everybody in person, hey, let's go, some people are a little embarrassed to discuss about their financial problems, and maybe some other challenges. So when you're actually connecting with one of them, trying to understand them, giving them time, and then making a summary, and then trying to convince about, sticking to a lower budget, I think that kind of helps. So yeah, I've done that in the past. So yeah, it came out really well. So
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair because you want to have the best experience possible within the limitations that you have, right? So
yeah,
whatever adjustments you can make is always uh, for the better is always the best way to go about it.
yeah,
Because yeah, I think with that also, like the other way I see it, based on the things that you're saying, is that you can always go back to another. If you want to go back somewhere else, you can always go back in the future if there's other things that you want to explore. So it's not like you have to explore the entirety of LA just when you go to LA, right? Like,
yeah,
so I guess you can also sort of um,
absolutely, yeah,
yeah, understand those things and make those decisions that way as well. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Because,
Um,
for example, a small, if I have to give a small example, so if you're going to New Mexico, so you can plan it for $300, or you can plan for $500. You can spend it for $1,000. Like, there are some activities to do there. So, and if you want to really do it like $300, just go to, some beautiful and unique cities like Santa Fe, or maybe White Sands Park, or maybe Albuquerque, or some nearby places. You can complete that in $300. But if somebody wants to really do that hot air balloon, because it's quite popular in New Mexico, right? So if somebody wants to do that, and it's like $200 plus taxes, like it's kind of an expensive activity. And we all want to do that, but then sometimes we one in that group want to do it, other people are like, okay, it doesn't really matter even if you don't do this, okay. So that time we were like, okay, if you want to do it, just go ahead and do it. And those who don't want to do it, that's fine, totally no worries. Because similar experience I had, like, we all went to this place called a Flagstaff in Arizona. And so I went to the trip with three people. They just came to the US. So for them, uh, okay, they have seen this gondola ride, uh, and I think it's like a half a mile gondola ride on the top of the mountain. So so we were a group of four, and then the gondola ride costed like $80 or something like that. And two people wanted to go there because they wanted an experience, and other two people, like including me, we don't want to go that because I was like, I can save that $80 and I can just put that on something else, like, on some food, or maybe a souvenir, or maybe buy an Arizona t-shirt, you know, because that is not something I would do it. If it's $10 to $20, I would do it, but $80 is a little too much for me. I won't do that. So, we just both backed out, and the other two people, they are okay with that. So they just went ahead. So, uh, sometimes it's good to compromise on few things where you don't see a lot of value. So I mean, it's again all about perception, how people see it, in terms of value. But for me, spending that much amount for just a 5 minutes ride is not worth it. So I backed out. So
Gotcha. Fair, fair,
yeah,
fair. The other question that I had earlier was more so related to your time in Colorado. You mentioned the loneliness aspect of things. If you don't mind sharing, how did that affect you in how are you able to sort of make those adjustments while you were staying there?
I tried a lot, and then so okay, as so I had this group of friends, and then they were just doing their masters in Colorado, and then everybody started graduating. So I was like kind of losing my whole group of friends in Colorado, and then so I used to work remote in Colorado as well. Like I had an office in Colorado Spring, which is like 60 miles away from Denver. But then, even if I would go to office, I won't see anybody. Like everybody is like at home working at their comfort. So that's why I used to, like refrain from going that far. So I used to work from home as well. And speaking about the loneliness, so when you are sitting in front of a laptop surrounded by those four walls for the whole 24 hours, I think that's just too depressing by itself. And if I had like, you know, uh, some friends next to my apartment or next to my community, I would just, evening time, I would just go, just chill with them, and then, just kind of socialize with people. So that would just kind of help me. But then in Colorado, that weather was something that that impacted socializing with people outside, and and then most of the time I used to be like either in front of my workstation or sitting in the living room just watching TV. And if it was in the weekends, uh, I used to go for a hike there, wearing the spikes under the shoes, which gives you traction to walk on the icy surfaces or the snow. So I used to do like a lot of solo hiking, but then I was like 2 months back. I came here with six people and I did the same hiking. It was a lot of fun, and now I'm just doing just by myself. So physically, I'm active, but then this thing, the mental health is very important, and this is something where I'm not happy. And uh, you know that memories, and that is kind of important for me, making memories. Uh, and then I was like, okay, going by self, I'm not doing I'm not enjoying this trip basically. So what is the point of me being in this beautiful city when I don't have the right people to go? Right. So, people talk about Switzerland. So, and how beautiful it is when you see it in pictures and all that. But just imagine you're the only person living in Switzerland, how does it feel? So, you are staying in the paradise of the earth, but then, it's just like you're the only person existing there because you don't see anybody, and you don't really have a company to go with. So that kind of uh, that's something that influenced me. Okay, I've enjoyed here enough. Now I have to go back to like I have to go to a place where I have people, I have friends, I have family. Because in US, if you want to see something new, you can just go anywhere. Just book a flight, just take a car, just go anywhere. But the most important thing is dealing with the loneliness, and you feel loneliness, you feel depressed because you don't have anyone to talk to, you don't have anyone to hang out with. And so that was something that I was looking for, and that's when I decided to come to North Carolina East Coast, because I knew people here. And trust me, and it really kind of helped me. I've been in North Carolina for almost like 1 year now, and I have like with so many friends, like in the first 4 or 5 months itself. Like I have like 5 6 groups to hang out. One group I go to hikes with, one group I go to beach with, one group I go to movies with. So I have like people with different interests. So I never feel that lonely here in North Carolina anymore. And coming to traveling, I'm anywhere traveling like every month. I'm going to a different state, and the part that I miss about Colorado is like I go to Colorado like every once in a quarter of the year. So you get this cheaper frontier tickets for like $30 $40, I would just go on a Saturday morning, and then I would just do a small hike on Saturday morning, go to an go for clubbing in the night in Denver, and then Sunday morning I would go for another hiking, and Sunday night I would just come back to Raleigh. So I'm still doing the same things that I would just do there, but here I'm more happy staying in North Carolina because um, mental health is something that I put as a priority because that is very essential, and not the aesthetics of the state, not the beauty of the state, but you have to, you know, have that clear and stable mind, because this is the powerhouse of your whole body, right? So if this is fresh, if this is happy, then I think you can recreate a lot of memories, in whichever state you want to. But then for everyday survival, I think you need the real good connection or really good people to hang around. So yeah, because uh, this is another small example I want to give actually. So one of my friends, so she was like, so she's again into a lot of outdoor activities, and she's also like into this traveling and stuff, and she really liked Utah. And then she was like, if she was given an option between like New Jersey and Utah, and she picked up Utah because she wanted to do a lot of hikes there, because she was like very impressed with the beauty of that state. She literally went to Utah, and within 1 month, she went through a depression. Like, because she was having trouble making friends there, socialize, and the weather again, 6 months, it's always cold. So, and Utah is again at a higher elevation. So, you feel that kind of shortness of breath and there's elevation issues. So, literally, the happy girl that I always have seen her back in India or back in Texas. So after going to Utah, she was not the same. Like, she went through a lot of loneliness, depression, and all that, and finally, she convinced her manager, and then she moved to New Jersey, and she's kind of happy now. And then, this is something I want to tell everybody, that you might like a state, you know, just go there, settle wherever you want. But before that, ask yourself: are you strong enough to control your mental health or manage your mental health? Are you guys strong enough to do that? Are you strong enough to bear any weather? Are you strong enough to bear any elevation? Or are you like strong enough to bear the expenses in that state? So if you're just answering these four questions, and if three questions out of this you think that you can bear it, then just go for it. Don't think twice. But if you think that out of these four questions, the majority of the questions are something you can't bear it, I would say, then don't go for it. Because that you always need people around you. Even at least you have one or two friends, that's enough. But you really need that circle in front of you. And speaking about one small thing here, Pratik, like, sorry, I'm giving a long answer here.
No, absolutely.
So
Go for it. Go for it, brother.
Colorado people, a lot of people go there for hiking. Sorry, not hiking. I mean, hiking is one of them, of course. And the next thing is the skiing. Or right. So trust me, even I wanted to do skiing. I want to learn skiing, and I also wanted to, hold the poles in my hand and just, you know, go around the sloping mountains. I really want to do that, but trust me, the 1 year that I stayed in Colorado, it was in a bucket list, but I couldn't go to Colorado, that skiing activity there. The main reason I was thinking is that, okay, what if I break my leg? What if I injure myself? There's like literally nobody to look after me, right? So I have nobody to like take care of me. I'm like just by myself. If I'm taking the risk, if I break something in my body, then I think the only way, to come out of it, just get a hospital care or get my parents from India, or I go to India, until I get cured. So these are the thoughts that have come, like, kind of coming in my mind, and I think that seems fair there. And now since I had that long wish list that I want to do skiing and doing, I'm doing right sitting in North Carolina as well. Like we have beautiful skiing mountains in the west of North Carolina. Like you have heard of this place called Smoky Mountains, Asheville, Copper Mountain. So they have a really beautiful skiing resorts there. And the closest one to us is the one in West Virginia. West Virginia is again one of the most underrated states that people don't go there because for everybody, people think of mountains or the big buildings, but West Virginia don't have either of that. But what they have is like the really good nature. So, you know, yeah, if somebody, if you guys want to explore, just go for it. Yeah, so West Virginia again has like really good skiing resorts, and they have like cheaper options. In Colorado, if I had to do skiing for, if I want to learn skiing and if I want to do skiing, learn and also do it for a weekend, it'll cost me like easily $500 to $700 along with the instructions and the equipments, rentals, and everything. But I went to West Virginia to fulfill my wish, and put a check mark on my bucket list. So it just costed me like $125, to get the training for one day and also the full day lift pass. So I found a cheaper alternative. I learned it enough that just for an experience. And this time when I went for the skiing, I was very confident that okay, if I'm breaking my leg or if I'm breaking my hand bone or anything, I am going with a set of people, and I'm also coming back with a set of people, and I also have people nearby. So if something happens, there are people to look after me. Like there are people who can cook for me. There are people who can like get groceries for me. There are people who can walk me to the hospital, or anything like that. Uh, so I think maintaining that circle of people around you who care for you in situations like this, I think that is like very essential, rather than just looking at the beauty side of uh, beauty side of a thing, or just going carried away by the aesthetic of the state. I would just say just focus on your mental health first. Uh, yeah, because that's how you have to live. So
Totally. I couldn't agree more because yeah, when you were talking about the cost of spending or wanting to go skiing in Colorado, that was one of my major reasons was the expense of like going up and doing that. Because from the math that I had done, it was actually closer to $1,000 in like the Vail area. Um, and I was like, yeah, no, never mind. I'm not going to do that. But no, it's good to hear that it's that cheap in like West Virginia. So maybe that's something to explore for sure. But yeah, the other thing that you mentioned that I really wanted to write home and sort of talk about as we close off for today was like realizing the importance of having people around us, right? Because we are all social beings at the end of the day. So we can't be alone for too long. Like at some point, you need people around you. Uh, yeah, that like you kind of hit on all the points that I was thinking of in terms of like the social interaction and how that helps improve your mental health and so on. So yeah, that was very. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's something very important for people to think about as well in terms of being in good groups and so forth. Um, but yeah, bro. I mean, I think that's a very good note to sort of bring this to a close. Any parting thoughts? Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to share with the people listening and watching?
uh, yeah, so I would say, uh, guys. So okay, so one thing I would, two things actually. I really want to, kind of bring up here. So one is fo- focus on your finances at a first stage, and always save money for what if situations. The biggest lesson that I have learned in my life is save first and then spend. So whenever you're getting your pay, uh, you know, let's say $1,000, like 100%, that's $1,000. Try to save at least 50% of that pay. Just open another account. Just put all the money into that account and just forget about it. Okay, and just put it into savings because that gives you yield over like for a year. So let just put that money and just forget about it. And the balance 50% in left in your primary checking account, pay your rent and do a little traveling, of course, and pay any payments if you have. So if let's say the balance 50%, you're completing 40% in just these things I just mentioned. The leftover 10%, do not make any compromises for yourself. If you want to buy a new watch, go for it. If you if you want to buy new AirPods, or if you just want to buy an you know something big, something expensive like an expensive hoodie, just go for it. Do not make compromises on your life because you're already saving 50% of your paycheck in the beginning, which is sitting in a different account. So that is like kind of your emergency funds or your investment funds anytime you want to like use it for a reasonable purpose in the future. So the rest over 50% that are sitting in your current checking account, just use it completely. Do not make any compromises because you might not want to go out. Everybody's wearing Jordan and you are just wearing just Crocs. Buy something for yourself because if you're gifting somebody, it's a different thing, but always prioritize yourself. Just buy things for yourself first, and then focus on others. So I would say in that 50%, after paying whatever your bills are, the leftover whatever it is, just buy something for yourself because one day you'll feel proud that hey, you have bought this with your own saving, without making any compromises. So and trust me that 50% that you're saving in a different savings account, I think that will take you a long way because if you're saving like $500 today, for a year, how much it is? $6,000. Okay, so in that $6,000, you can plan for something big, like you can upgrade to a new car. If you don't have a car, you can just put that as a down payment and you can buy a new car, or you can buy something expensive, or you can just go on a world tour. You can do a lot, or so yeah. So this is my biggest learning that I want to share with everybody, that is save first and then spend. And second thing that I would like to recommend is that uh, when you are doing any, so that was the finance aspect and little life learning as well. Second thing I want to bring up is that uh, uh, you know about the traveling. So when you are traveling, always have that budget in your mind and always be a little flexible to spend little 20% extra of it. Don't go more than 20% because if you go a little 20 over that, it'll just keep on adding up, and then it'll go up till another 50% and 100%. You have to put a break to your budget. You have to put that constraint. You have to put that limit. So even if you have to make some compromises on some activities or some shopping and during your traveling, just do it. It's fine. You are going there for experience. You are gaining that experience and coming back. That's important. We are not rich people. We are not like billionaires to do everything. So gain some memory and come back. And whenever you're traveling, just if possible, try to travel in a group of four. I think that's a really good count, either three or four, like two, three, four. I think that's a really good number. I think five is again a very bad number because, again, you have to take two rental cars and two different rooms, like, to, you know, things split in a different way. So, if you are a person who really want to plan something and you want to go with people, I know it's sometimes difficult to leave some people out if you are, let's say, a group of five best friends, but then, that time just go for it. But yeah, if you have an option, just try to limit to 3 to 4 people. I think, logically that will make a lot of sense to plan a budget trips without any compromises. And next thing is, if you're going on a trip, just go with the people who are, you know, uh, who are like flexible and little adjustable to wake up little early, because the real beauty of the state you will see in the morning time, like when you start your day at 7 o'clock and you end your day at 5 o'clock. I think it's the best time that you would cover. You might not want to go with people who wake up late because you're not spending that much of amount to go and wake up late. So I literally refrain from going with those people who want to just do a staycation instead of a vacation. So that's something, a useful tip that I want to share with you all, if you really want to get the real flavor of the vacation or the state that you're uh, visiting. And yeah, these are few tips about uh, traveling that I just wanted to share. And the last thing, the most important thing is that please try to focus on your mental health, because this is the part of most important part of your whole body that makes you, right? If this stops functioning, then you can't do anything, so so just focus on your mental health first, and then your physical health. And uh, always try to make new friends, and you know trust you, and make always a group again, whom you can trust. Share anything about yourself that you think that they will be able to help you in, uh, you know with your mental health, and they're open to talking about it and listening to you, and give you some kind of suggestions. So, that kind of circle is also very important, because I see that sometimes very easily, if we are going through mental health, we just rely on the therapy session. We just go to a therapist. I would say, you know, okay, some people do that. It's fine. Like if they have some really confidential things to talk about, people go to the therapist, fine. But I would recommend that before going to a therapist, just talk to your friends. Just spend some time with them. Or just share your situation with them, the person whom you trust, and get their perspective as well. And then if you are looking for some opinion, I would always say try to discuss something with three people, and try to, and because three people will give maybe kind of different opinions, but if two people opinions are kind of is something that you're expecting, or if they're giving you some feedback and they both are like quite relatable, then just go with that, because sometimes the majority thoughts are something that are helpful. So again, and yeah, so focus on your mental health, and everything will be all right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said can apply differently to different people, right? So to
Yeah.
sort of add on to what you said, I would definitely also say, like, look at what your circumstances are and figure it out accordingly and go from there. But yeah, thank you so much, bro, for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. Um, you sharing the tips of traveling and your experiences and so on. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Pratik, for having me here, and I really enjoyed this conversation with you. So yeah, have a great week. Enjoy
Awesome.
the
Yeah, for
evening.
those of you, yeah, for those of you watching and listening, thank you so much. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys. Bye.